Or ideas about wood floors, call Design Wood Floors at 617-967-4071. Partial sunshine today with a high of 76 degrees and a breeze from the southwest. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies, overnight low of 62. Monday's weather, a slight chance of a shower in the morning, mostly cloudy skies through midday, then gradually clearing with a high of 75. Winds out of the west up to 22 miles an hour on Monday. Tuesday, sunshine and 53. Wednesday, sunshine and 53 again. Thursday, sunshine and 63. Veterans Day Friday, partly sunny and 66. On Saturday, though, looks like mostly cloudy skies with a 50% chance of rain. Welcome to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.
If reincarnation, as most people understand it, is correct, why are there so many ghosts? Is it about successive lives or simultaneous lives?
Hello, and welcome to the...
Hey, I didn't do the third question.
I'm sorry, you paused.
Well, I paused, yes.
I'm very sorry.
That's all right. Don't let it happen again. Why is it that you seem to know certain people you have never met before?
And on that note, hello, and welcome to the 970th edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno, coming to you from WOON AM and FM radio in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, on the Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live, on YouTube and via TuneIn.com. I'm Ben. That was Paul that I rudely interrupted. I'm very sorry. And today we welcome a new guest on a subject we don't cover very often.
Jillian Harris has been a broadcast journalist and radio DJ, has owned multiple businesses, and has been a metaphysical consultant and author for many years. Her 4 books include Have We Met?, How to Identify Your Reincarnated Loved Ones, the focus of our discussion today. Jillian comes to us via Skype from California. Her website...
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
I'm trying not to pause so much. Well, you're excited. I'm excited too.
I'm just ready and raring to go.
So the website, JillianHarrisWorldwide.com. That's ironic that our radio station site is ONWorldwide.com.
Aha!
Okay.
It is indeed a small world, after all. So, Jillian Harris, welcome to Behind the Paranormal.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet both of you. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you with us, and despite the little goofs and gaffes we had, I guess we'll hop right into it. So, right in the first chapter of your book, you address the ghost problem my dad mentioned earlier at the outset of the show, and later you talk about the possibility of multiple dimensions and parallel lives being involved as well. Yeah. So, lay out for us what you believe reincarnation is and how it works, and on top of that, tell us your own story.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. I find how it works in terms of reincarnation to be so big that I had to write a book. And in that book, I actually go through the effort because I think the core of the answer to the question of how is this possible. I mean, at this point, a lot of people are like in acceptance that reincarnation is a thing, even though they may not be able to explain it. They get it and they buy it. But then how is it really possible that we body hop, basically, from one body this lifetime to another body another lifetime, and then in some cases, as you see in the book that I'm talking about, we're doing a couple of different bodies, a couple of different lifetimes at the same time in a parallel existence. And so I do the best I can in this book to break it completely down in terms of spiritual not psychology, but the anatomy of the spirit body. And the main thing is that we are, this is something people have to get with, hear it 3 times, and let it, settle in. But we're not human so much as we are spirit beings. Spirit beings, temporary human experience, eternal spirit beings. And so, as spirit beings, we then can move body to body. This is a temporary thing. A lot of people look at themselves in the mirror and think, this is me. I was complaining, I don't have lipstick on today. Me, I don't have lipstick. This is a problem, but it's not even who I am. This is not even me. It's my spirit body that's kind of going, gosh, in this human experience at this moment on this particular day, I would like to be wearing lipstick. But the truth of the matter is, me, Jillian, as a spirit being, there's no lipstick. I talk in the book about if you've ever seen an apparition or a spirit body form in front of you. And there are different ways that can happen. For me personally, it always happens as a white fog. And when I see that fog, that lets me know, it's like a reminder, oh yeah, that's what we look like, butt naked, like with no clothes on, no skin, no bones, no nothing. That's our basic body. And that's the body then that can, I want to say float, but that's not really a floating thing, but go from physical body to physical body, incarnation after incarnation. So that's one part of the answer. And I want to know if you're with me on that, or shall I just keep going with like maybe going to another angle of the answer in terms of how reincarnation happens? Because to me, it's a great big story, and it's a story that kind of came together before any lifetimes began, where, as I see it, I like to describe it like God one day, or whatever you call source, the creator of all things, whatever you want to call that being, said to itself one day, this is boring, I want to have some fun. What would happen if I split myself into a bazillion people, a bazillion places, and had a bazillion experiences so I could do some learning and growing within myself? And so I see each person as a unique expression of the creator of all things. And so we met at some point before we started this series, this circuit of reincarnational lifetimes, and made a plan. Groups of spirit beings got together, and I call this our spirit family. And for all I know, you two were in my group, and we had a plan. We said, hey, on one of these incarnations, I'm going to write a book, and you guys are going to have a show, and you're going to have me on. Okay, cool. Awesome. And who knows what else we said. But we also, in these groups, we like decide who's going to be the mom, who's going to be the dad, who's going to be the sister, who's going to be the mean person down the street, who's going to be the hero, who's going to be the sickly person, who's going to be, the bionic one, who's going to be the smart one, who's going to be the mentally challenged one, and how's that going to work together, and what are we going to learn through that? And I also believe that while we were sitting in that safe place at the Spirit Beam martini bar, whatever it was, where we met each other for this plan to make these arrangements and agreements with each other, I think that we were maybe more confident about how it would go down in the physical world, because we at that point know who we are and where we come from. But now we go through this veil and we go into an incarnation and start to live it. And as we go through that veil, we're born in the physical, and we have, because of our brain, which is a whole other subject, kind of have blinders on in terms of what we're experiencing. So we only see this life, and we are now influenced by the people around us, our parents and the surroundings and the environment and whatnot. And we start having a physical experience, and we can then be limited until we remember. And for some people, it's a whole lifetime. And for some people, they do the whole lifetime and never remember from whence they originally came. And that is the huge, for me, the growth to get, oh my gosh, I'm a spirit being. It's not just this physical existence. So people can have that. And so we go lifetime to lifetime, having our experiences, hopefully growing, and then in another lifetime, we can switch positions. And I even say that what happens is we switch astrological signs so that we can have a new experience, do life from a new perspective, another way of looking at it. I was a Scorpio last time, this time a Gemini, and that's a whole different way of seeing the world. So that's part of how I see it coming together. What questions have I left you with?
Oh, no, just your own experience. It's rather touching how you and the point of your book, one of the points of your book too, is how to discover people you've known in whatever is happening here.
Yes. So, if reincarnation is real, and our loved ones pass away, but reincarnation is real, well, then they're coming back, right?
Well,
And
if that's the pattern, yeah.
yeah, well, I'm just trying to throw some logic on it. That's what I thought. I said, okay, this is
Sure.
just logical. But then also, I got to this logic as I was about to write the book. But the truth is, through my life, I have re-encountered friends, people who I knew who passed away, and now they're back. Like 10, 20 years later, I encounter them again. But I don't say necessarily anything to them. There are only a couple of friends maybe that I've made, and I've expressed, this isn't our first time. We've done this, but we're doing this as friends. We are associates in another incarnation. And those are people though that are also metaphysical, and they get it, and they're like, yeah, totally. And they've got stuff to add to the conversation that I didn't even put in. But for the most part, I'm simply comforted. One in particular, I was a competitive dancer in my younger days, and the partner that I competed with most passed away in like 91. And so, I don't know how many decades or so after, I saw him again. And I'm positive that it was him, like completely 1000% that was Glenn on a bus. And and just having a great time as he usually does. But I didn't need to go up to that person and go, hey, I remember you, and we used to dance together, and and you passed away from whatever, but you're here back, and that's great. I'm glad you're doing well now again and everything, because he would have thought that's so odd. I do believe, and I write about this in the book, and I actually share this opinion with a neurosurgeon who I quote in there about the brain and the physical human brain being something that like puts blinders up for us, so that we're not able to see across the veil. We're not able to sync with, psychologically or anyway, all the other lifetimes that we are living or have lived. And I think that the reason is because we need to focus on the life that we're living right now. So that's the other reason that I didn't and don't mention to the many people. But so then why, on this particular situation, did I feel so friggin' compelled that I just had to tell this person? Should I tell my story? What happened?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I was frequenting this dispensary in the Los Angeles area. And I'd go there, I'd gone there for a couple of years. And I got to know the people. I always do that. I'm a friendly person. So,
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
So I get to know the people, But in this particular case, I got that nudge. Hey, this person from before. I'm like, okay, cool. And I go on about my business. A few months goes by. Hey, you know this person. Okay, already. All right. I got it. I know this person. Cool. I'm not going to say anything. It's like, it's fine. But finally, one day I go in. And the person that I'm talking about is one of the owners. His name is Tony, and I get this nudge again that I know him, and I need to know how I know him. And now I'm a little bit annoyed, and I'm about to drive from Los Angeles to Riverside, where I am right now, and I get in the car. It's going to be an hour and 45 minutes, and I am just searching and searching, and it's getting deeper and deeper. I'm frustrated, and now I'm like, it's like there's emotion coming out of me. Like I'm crying, I'm upset. I'm like, I have to, like, desperation. I desperately need to know how it is I know this person. And it no longer even matters why I need to know. I just have to know. I have to. So now I'm doing everything that I do. I'm praying. I'm talking to spirit. I'm asking for my guides to please come in, download, give me information. I am clairsentient. I'm extraordinarily clairsentient, which is what this was about. This was full-on emotion talking to me, which is sometimes difficult to read. But I'm also clairvoyant and some other clairs, and I'm looking for all of it. But I was too in it to really get the answers that I wanted or needed. So I texted a friend while I was driving. Luckily, Subaru has this way where you can tell it the numbers, and it'll just text for you. So I'm like, Lori, I tell her the situation and, what the problem is, and can you help me? Because sometimes folks who are clairvoyant and whatnot, we need assistance from other folks who are not so close to the forest. So she went to get her cards and whatnot. And while she went to do that, I get a download. And now all of a sudden I know exactly who it is. And I expressed that to her. And now she gets to do a qualifying thing to see if that's what she also gets. And that's what she also gets. And I'm torn at this very moment because I don't want to tell you, just in case you want to read the book to find out who this person was. But I will say that they were in my life like several decades ago. And back when I was in broadcasting school, as a matter of fact. And I'm going to leave it right there. But so... Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to ruin the story, but this person did pass away soon after I got out of broadcasting school, and yes, there was romance in there too. So that's what kind of makes this kind of juicy. At the time, he was in his 50s, I was in my 20s. Now it was flipped.
Yeah,
and Yeah. So anyway, that leads to the next book, but we can talk about that some other time. Anyway,
sure.
Yeah. So now I'm meeting him again. So now there's all kinds of feelings coming in. There's a maternal thing happening. There's a romantic thing happening. And then, but in real life, I mean, oh my gosh, I really am not. I mean, he's super attractive. This is a gorgeous man, but that's not really what I wanted to be doing with this person. I was seeing someone else. So like, what is happening here? And that is the story. So I write this book as a journal. I write it, as it's happening. And ultimately, I have conversation across the veil as a medium with a group of people, one in particular, who lets me know that they are the reason, they were the one knocking on my door to say, this person. You need to investigate this. And the reason is because they wanted to communicate with that person. That part, I don't want to let out what it was because it is so freaking huge. It's so huge. And for me personally, always wanting to be an evidential medium. I don't want to just say stuff and, wow, that's really cool and everything. I want to say stuff, bring information, deliver the goods that make people go, whoa, And in this case, for Tony, when I gave him the script of the book, I said, here's what I've got. I think I'm done. I wasn't completely done. I still had maybe a chapter or two left. But the majority of it was right there. I'd had the conversation with this person. I journaled it because I had turned on my phone to record while I was in that mediumship moment. So I now had all the conversation from both sides, not necessarily their side, but while I was talking to them, when they'd say something, I would go, okay, so I understand you're saying blah, blah. And that way I would have the script of what they were saying when I went to write it. So now I'm like, here you go. Here's the draft. And, I'm also, let me give you 3-4 weeks to decide as you read this, if you really want me to use your name or not, I mean, oh my gosh, it's about you. And now we're also talking about some folks, who wanted me to, I said, Tony, who is blank? And he told me, and I said, where are they right now? And he said that they'd passed. And I was like, whoa, because there's no way in the world that I would know these people, this person, that this would have happened, that didn't know them. So then how would I know they passed away, what they were to him, anything? So that was amazing, huge evidence. And for me, just even in my journey spiritually, that was a monumental moment for me. And I was just so grateful, just it gave me validation about what I do and wanting to be of service with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
I thought the
saw
story
that.
was very touching. Certainly.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Now, before we get into physics, duality, time, consciousness, and maybe a little bit about the unity, as we call it. I wanted to take a question from Peter Shelley in Bogota, Colombia.
Yes, and Peter writes to us. Has anyone read the books of Dr. Ian Stevenson? He wrote a lot about reincarnation, including reincarnation in biology, reporting 200 cases in which birthmarks and birth defects seem to correspond in some way to a wound on the deceased person whose life the child recalled.
Yeah, I have some comments on that, but if you'd like to take that first, Julie.
Well, I've not met Ian Stevenson's books, but I just wrote that down because I would like to get into that. But
Yeah.
I have heard that information, like where the wound. Actually, what I had learned was that the wound, or the birthmark, is where a wound that was fatal was in a previous incarnation.
Now, Ian Stevenson, I encountered his books in the late 60s, actually, before I actually got into this in 1970, paranormally speaking. And he was quite he was a psychiatrist who
Yeah.
taught for years and years at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. And he kept running into cases like this. And I have to say, he was one of the people who started to clarify my thinking on the physicality of all this by the mid to late 70s, when I was running into things that spiritualism just really couldn't explain, to me anyway. And he really started me thinking that maybe the dualism that we all assume is true, spirit versus body, or matter versus energy, which is really a false dichotomy. I mean, matter really is energy in one form, a different form.
Right.
So I really started to wonder if we're dealing with a lot more physical stuff than it is spiritual, in a sense. And if these are not more parallel lives that affect one another more than successive lives would. And of course, couple that with the wonderful ideas of special relativity and some of the quantum physics stuff, where time literally does not exist as we experience it.
Right.
And you run into all kinds of problems with some of the more classical interpretations of what this has been. You look like you want to say something.
Well, sort of. I have many things to say, but I've been paying attention and writing notes because I lose my thoughts very, very easily. So
They're my age.
Yeah. It's not the years, it's the mileage, Dad.
Right.
So I think I get what you're saying, Jillian, and I fight with myself much like anybody else who is in this field and saying, well, they're not saying everything exactly the way I would say it, so they're wrong. That's not fair for anybody to say, really, because
Right.
I think the thing is, I think we all say the same things, but the terms and the way in which we interpret things is the sort of the pitfall, because there's an objective reality that we all experience, but we experience it all subjectively. So it's like we know something's there, and it's like we're all doing our best to try and describe it, and it's very hard to. And one of the things I always get my mind wrapped up in is it's. I think it's more of a cultural thing than it is an intellectual thing, because the place in which I was raised, besides my father and my mom, put me into a culture that's not really quite Western. So I got exposed to a lot of different ideas. So by the time by the time I was in like school and stuff, I was like, well, why are we talking about this way or whatever? So one of the really big things I always have trouble with understanding is this idea of that we're basically the idea of source, quote unquote, right? I always have a big problem with that, because the logic would be, if there's an omnipotent being, why would they need to manifest in some physical way to experience, I don't know, getting a haircut? Like, it's like, I find it odd, because I would assume that if there was an omnipotent being, that they wouldn't need to experience anything. So it's one of those things that I always have a bit of a hard time understanding. But I think I get where you're coming from on it. But I don't want to tread too close to being a full-on Platonist by saying, well, none of it really matters. It's all, I take my body for a walk, not, I go for a walk. It's right, yeah. It's one of those things that it's such a philosophical pitfall to fall into, because I think it's all a response to like hyper-materialism that we've all been exposed to for the last, I don't know, 2-3 centuries, where we're coming up on a break, and I'll finish my thought, and we'll continue this discussion, because it's going somewhere.
I wanted to get Jillian's thoughts on a couple of things.
Yes.
But we need to take our mid-show break. You're listening to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on WON 1240 AM and 99.5 FM in New England's paranormally warm November Valley here, the Blackstone Valley, and it is what it is. So we'll be right back with our great guest, Jillian Harris, so stick with us.
The Woonsocket Board of Canvassers would like to remind voters that November 8th is Election Day. The voters of Woonsocket will be voting on races from U.S. Congress to school committee with 3 state referenda questions. In addition, there will be 2 local referenda questions on the ballot. Question 4, an amendment to the Woonsocket Home Rule Charter, regards the appointment of the city solicitor and reads, shall the City of Woonsocket Home Rule Charter, Chapter 10, entitled Administrative Departments, Article 1, entitled Law Department, Section 1, entitled Created Appointment Qualifications of Head, be amended to change the authorization for appointment of the city solicitor from the appointment by the mayor to appointment by the city council. You may approve or reject that question. Question 5 is entitled Relating to Cannabis Establishments and Public Use. And the question reads, shall new cannabis-related licenses for businesses involved in the cultivation, manufacture, laboratory testing, and for the retail sale of adult recreational use cannabis be issued in the city of Woonsocket? You may approve or reject that question. Knowing your options, early in person or election day, please vote. If you'd like more information on the election, you can visit the website of the Woonsocket Board of Canvassers at www.woonsocketri.org or call the office at 401-767-9223.
Local and live at 99.5 FM.
And welcome back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on WON AM and FM. Folks also listening on the Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live on TuneIn.com and wherever podcasts or streaming goes, which is just about everywhere. So, and if anybody has a question today, you're welcome to call in from anywhere, 401-766-1240. And I wanted to get into the notion, too, Jillian, maybe we could start to bring all this together. I think we may be interpreting the same things maybe in a little bit different ways, and then maybe it's not a matter of right or wrong, just a matter of interpretation. Yeah. We actually had to invent terms for our own books to talk about things that nobody else really had talked about that we had ever seen. One of these notions is the unity with a capital U. And that has been present in many, many ancient cultures. The African idea of Ubuntu, where everything I do affects you, everything you do affects me, and all the way up through some of the Greek philosophers, and just about everywhere people have some kind of notion that we are kind of a great wholeness, and that the island theory, as we call it, just doesn't get us anywhere. The idea that we are totally contained within our bodies or even within souls. So that's kind of one of the notions that we have. And I think, we could very well be wrong, but it does seem to explain things like the unity we feel with other people sometimes, someone
right.
we've never met. One of the examples I've used ad nauseum on the show was one time when I was lecturing. Ben was, I don't think you were born, but not much.
I was just a twinkle in someone's eye.
Yeah. And his older brother and I were up at Mount Ida College near Boston, which I was kind of amused that half the students were studying to be undertakers. I thought that was funny. And there was the idea that I was talking about human relationships in the multiverse, with this whole idea of the parallel realities and no past, no future as such. And two freshman girls came up to me at the end after they put me in a chair, and the students came up and told me their own stories, and they said, "Why is it that on registration day we'd never seen each other before in our lives? Our eyes met, we were sisters from the start, and they were inseparable friends ever since." And I said, well, at some point in the multiverse, if it's true, you are each other. So that to me kind of came up, the whole idea of expressing the unity. We really are each other. We're not individuals in the sense that most of us understand that. So that's a long introduction to my question. Could that in some way be interpreted from your point of view as a way maybe to approach reincarnation in the sense of shared lives, not necessarily me, from start to finish? Well, what say you?
I mean, are you saying these two people recognized each other as spirit siblings?
Well, I don't know. You probably could say that. I think they recognized each other, in the sense of
as each other, meaning that
shared life.
You are me and I am you.
Yeah,
I get it. So that's amazing, and it's not impossible. I don't know that I personally have ever had that experience where I would meet another me, but I know that there's a moment I think I wrote about in Have We Met, where I'm driving past a massive cemetery in Los Angeles. One of the veterans cemeteries is gigantic, and as you're looking and you see all the rows are amazing as you drive by and stuff, and I thought to myself, how many of those gravestones are mine? Yeah. So, I mean, in that respect, I kind of feel what they're saying, but, and so I realize also that there is, I, as a multidimensional being, am living other incarnations in other places at this time. I say at this time because I believe there is no time. So everything is happening at this very moment.
right.
But when you think about, I mean, when you put the clock back in there and you see those lifetimes, and there are definitely, this one's in the 1800s and this one's in the 1900s and this one's in, the farther beyond than that. There's that. But then there is this, what you're talking about, this phenomenon with these two people that know each other. I don't think that's an anomaly. I actually think that is a possibility, and the reason why some people, come together and sync so easily, so quickly. And without even thinking about it, a lot of people don't stop to think, how is it that this is happening? How is it that we are so, perfect as friends like this? How is it that we knew from the very moment that we met that we were good? Or how did we know from the very moment that we didn't like each other? That happens too. And I think that those are all, getting the information. I call it bleed over.
Right.
Because part of us that knows what's happening in these other dimensions at that time. So, and then, yes, I believe that affects what we experience here.
Okay. I'm going to hold up the book here. Okay.
Shall I?
Yeah. There you go. And for those who are watching on the video feed, or those who are seeing it recorded later,
You have to lower it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Have we met? How to identify your reincarnated loved ones. So take a minute, please, Jen, and not to give away too much,
Yes.
but so that has happened to you. And you know others to whom that has happened. You know, recognizing loved ones
Yes.
from other lives, whether they be successive or parallel, right?
Wait, I don't know that other people, when they recognize their others, realize that's a loved one, but they definitely get, wow, we're close. We're brothers. We're definitely brothers. We're definitely sisters, you know, but not necessarily put the rest of it together like I do. But for me, myself, yes, absolutely
Okay.
have.
And our question from Phil in Savannah, Georgia, is pretty much what we've. Maybe you can read it, but we pretty much discussed that. But
Maybe go into a little more detail. Reincarnation seems to suggest a linear progression of time. Are you open to the possibility that past lives are actually parallel lives and that time is eternally present? We've already kind of gone over that, but
we
Yeah.
have. Okay, so it's so good. All right, now tell us before we burn up the hour here, where people can find out more about you, your website, your book, your podcast.
Yeah, I do have a podcast. The podcast is called The Conscious Cougar. And that's me. I'm a cougar and I'm conscious. And that website, you know, it's easy to me, Jillian Harris Worldwide, but then I got to remember to tell people that the G, Jillian starts
Yes.
with a G, you know. It's much easier to reach me at theconsciouscougar.com. It's the exact same website. So you can go there and find me. Let's see, what else can I say? The Conscious Cougar at Gmail. You can also follow me on Instagram at The Conscious Cougar, as well as I don't have an at Jillian Harris Worldwide, just at The Conscious Cougar, because I knew it was simpler.
Okay, Ben.
So you mentioned something earlier, and I wanted to take a quick step back towards it, which is the anatomy of the spirit. And you
Yeah.
kind of talked a little bit about it, but I kind of want you to expand a little bit more on that if you can.
Well, so yeah, it's a great big thing, because we look in the mirror and we go, oh, here we are, and I'm upset, I don't have my lipstick on. But the truth of the matter is, this isn't even who I am. This is what I'm wearing right now. This is what I'm wearing to function in this particular dimension. And the truth is, my spirit body, which is even actually bigger than what you're looking at, but weighs a whole lot less, is the real me. And that spirit body, and when you look at the anatomy of that, now you've got chakras. In the book I talk about, you know, there's 7 popular chakras. To me personally, I like to focus on the first 8 chakras. There are folks who say we have more than 100 chakras, but these are energy centers within our spirit being. And then I like to explain to people that just like the physical body has a heart and kidneys and pancreas and all these organs, the brain and whatnot, the energy body has these energy centers, the chakras that we know about. The 7 most popular ones run through from the bottom of the torso up to the top of the crown of the head here. So this part of us is the part that lives with us always. This is the part that is eternal. This is the part that never ever dies. So the physical body needs this life force energy that comes from the spirit body in order to exist. So I look at it like, I did a thing, I said in there, the heart and the brain, those are 2 important things to the physical body, but the heart, let's say, is important to keep the physical body beating, right? But the heart is nothing, absolutely nothing, without the spirit body. If the spirit body is not there, neither is your physical body.
Okay.
So your spirit body and these energy centers, the energy centers then govern certain parts of your physical body as well as certain parts of your psychological disposition. And so that's how we function, and we want to keep them all awake and functioning. But now I'm getting into why we need Reiki and, you know, and keeping our spirit bodies healthy. Did I answer your question though at all, or
Well,
more?
pretty much, but it's leading to, I think, another question. The classic question for us in this subject, when we open
Yeah.
the show with, is if reincarnation is true in the classic sense, why are there so many ghosts, whatever ghosts may be.
Hmm. Yeah, there aren't any ghosts.
Okay,
And,
yeah, you say that in the beginning of the book. That
Yeah.
really struck me. Yeah.
Yeah, there aren't any ghosts. The entities that we would call ghosts are no more ghosts than we, than you, than I am a ghost.
Agreed.
Yeah, and to other dimensions, I have a company, Stargate Adventure. It's stargateadventure.com, and it's an off-road retreat. So we go off-roading. I take small caravans of people off-roading and do meditations and whatnot, and remote viewing. So I guide these meditations so that we can remote view specifically to communicate with folks who are on other planets. And some of us, I have a lifetime on another planet or two. I'm not just doing incarnations on Earth. I'm also in other places. And so are you, and so are you, and so are you. So now to be able to do that. So, yeah, there are folks that have, I'm almost losing my train of thought right there. My question was, but yeah, we can be simultaneously in a lot of different places. And then to be able to communicate with that other us is a thing. And then just even to communicate with these other places and not necessarily with our same self. But we don't know. Oh, I know what I was trying to say. Just my call to do this other company, I believe, is my connection with myself and those in those other places, and my life purpose to connect people, to help people do that oneness of mind and get comfortable with that, to be able to then do remote viewing, which doesn't have to be so extreme and going to other planets. You can remote view right here on this planet, into the next room, into the next, city or town, or, wherever a loved one is, something like that.
Well, I think that you touched on something pretty important, which is, if you take it from the viewpoint of quantum mechanics, that all possibilities, including all possibilities for us, are out there somewhere or somewhen, and are in concrete reality. Whether we are conscious of lives on other planets or other parallel reality, whatever, all of it is out there. We often joke around Halloween time, and it's that was last week, but that unless something like the Great Pumpkin actually existed, Charles Schulz, the cartoonist, would never have been able to come up with the idea. So, somewhere or somewhere, there's something like that. And anything that's possible does exist according to that interpretation of quantum mechanics. So, so what is next for you? You mentioned you're writing another book.
Yeah, I am. And along the lines of the conscious cougar. Okay, so it's right in there. It's a little bit more, less metaphysical, but at the same time, it's about wisdom and beauty and fitness by any means necessary. Okay, and so there's that. But the main thing that I'm doing right now is launching my new company, which just took off October 1st. We did our first expedition, and that's the biggest thing going on for me right now, is guiding people on these tours and doing these retreats where folks can actually chill out, relax from the stress of the day-to-day. And I'm actually looking at it as a tool. Each of the caravans, I call it a love train, because one of the meditations that we do at night, I do sound baths under the stars, and these guided meditations are to create specifically a love vortex of love within the group. There could be between as little as 5, as many as 10, 15 people, depending on how many are in each car. And I try to have folks not have more than 2 or 3 in a car, because there are no gas stations in the desert. So got to have them to make it to the end of the road. Yes. But so then what we do is we're taking that love vortex and we're sharing it around the globe. I feel that the world, Earth, is in a lot of trouble right now.
Yeah.
And just scary trouble. And it's not even like black, white. It's not even that anymore. It's almost not even Republican, Democrat anymore. It's this other thing that is happening globally that is just so frightening, and we need to heal it. And I believe that love can heal. And so we create this vortex in this group, and then I teach them how to aim it, at these targets we think of ahead of time. If you need it in your family, if you need it yourself, somebody's sick, there's a county, there's a situation, there's a place, there's a thing that needs this healing, and then we send it there. And then what's awesome about that is I teach people how when you send out this love, from whence it comes, it actually multiplies and grows. So you're never depleting yourself as you share this love. And then I have to explain how sharing the love with what you might think is like, say, I'm just going to drop a name, Putin. You've got to throw the love on this guy in order to get some healing into his system. It's the only way. And so I'm really about the only way to get there is with this strongest energy that we know, and that is love. And I love being able to take people to that place where they feel it so deeply, where, I have folks focus on that person, that the people that they love so much, the person that you wouldn't have any question at all about running into a burning building to save them. Mm-hmm. You just would reflex. They'd have to hold you back, that kind of love. And to feel that and then see it as a massive energy and shoot it off somewhere and aim it. And to know there's been research already. This is effective. How effective? I don't know. We might need to do a lot of it, but it doesn't not work. There's already been research on how prayer works and collective thought and how that works and the effects that it can have in certain situations. So that's my platform right now, and that's what I'm doing. That's my input on everything that's happening in America and the rest of the globe at this time.
Okay, Ben.
You beat me to it. I was gonna. I guess I could still ask the question. What is love?
That's awesome, because it's energy. It is a massive energy force, and that's interesting. I'm not letting it stump me, but there's not necessarily the right words in English to explain what love is, except that it is this feeling, and it is this energy mass that is actually effective and healing. And that has to be enough for me. I don't know that I have more words for it.
Well, that sounds like you, Ben. English isn't up there actually talking about it.
Because that leads me to my follow-up point, which is,
tell me.
The English language is garbage for trying to explain any of this. It's because there's such a multiplicity in everything. There's so many layers to all of reality that English just can't penetrate, because it's so focused on a two-dimensional level, and it can't break past it. And it's, as much as it tries, and we try our best with the words we have. It's like I always like to point this out, because A, it's a really fun fact, and B, it shows how versatile not just other languages are, but specifically Mediterranean. There is a word in Koine Greek, which predates modern Greek, which is splagnon, which is the word for spleen, but it also means it means to show mercy or compassion, but it also means spleen or bowels. And the reason why it means those two things is because the ancient Greeks believed that their body parts, as much as they were physical body parts, also functioned with another layer of reality, that they had a spiritual layer and a mythological layer to them, that each portion of their body had some sort of power associated with it. And
that resonates to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things in ancient cosmology that I personally think postmodernism, that we all kind of live in this postmodern world now, has just thrown out so much that we're not left with a lot. So when we try to take on these questions of what is love, what is reality, what is reincarnation, we don't have the tools to really dig as deeply as we want into it.
Well, I think that maybe I get Jillian's response to this, but I learned from two people one an Aboriginal elder in Australia in 1979, and before that from Father Alexander Schmemann, one of my teachers at the Orthodox Seminary when I was studying for the priesthood, that love is a state of being. It's something you are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and not something you necessarily just feel or whatever. So I know that to me that's simple and deep. And what about what say you, Jillian?
I agree, and yeah, and I definitely also agree with Ben. Like the words, we don't have enough words, and I've known this for a long time about a lot of the things that I'm trying to express, and that's why I took the whole freaking book to like say the things I was trying to say.
Oh yeah.
And that's why in the meditations I do, I try to give people like, situations, think of this, think of that, think of this person. Okay, do you have that feeling? Does it make you kind of feel like crying? Like you feel that in your throat? Okay, can you now then translate that to an energy that you can see, like picture it? And because I don't have the words. So I have to like guide people to be able to create the feeling and grab onto that feeling then and be able to see it that way and feel it that way and know it that way, and now take that and use it. And that's all I can do at this time. I do definitely agree it's a way of being, and the compassion and the those things, but again, limiting words. And I struggle sometimes to find just the right avenues of words, but it's going to have to be a whole avenue boulevard of them sometimes to get folks to the right place and to what it is that I'm communicating.
I think we're all learning still. We never stop learning, and other people help us to do that.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
And there's really only 4 ways that humans sort of order our reality so we can exist in it, and it's language, ritual, music, and art. And those are the 4 ways that we kind of order reality so it makes sense to us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Music is a great example.
Well, Jillian, you are such a lovely person, and it was so great to have you with us today.
Oh, yeah.
Stick around. We can talk, but we'll go to our announcements. And something sticking to the desk here. Okay.
It happens.
Ben, take it away.
Well, you can look for us at the New England Parafest. That's in Kittery, Maine. That's coming up on April 22nd and 23rd. Of course, conveniently on my wedding anniversary.
Oh dear.
That event will kick off the week before that on this show on April 16th, when the headliners will appear with us.
Hopefully in the studio here. We'll be at the Para Expo 2023 aboard the USS Salem in Quincy, Massachusetts, May 19th to 21st. We'll be among the speakers, and we'll broadcast live from the ship if all goes well on Sunday, May 21st in our usual time slot.
Yes, and you can visit our show website, behindtheparanormal.com, where you can find over 1,100 hours of our regular shows and special broadcasts since 2008 from CBS Radio, Achieve Radio, and here on WOON AM and FM. Also, you can hear many of these broadcasts on the major podcast platforms, up to and including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and also via Spotify.
Now, I have to say that yesterday I noticed that this is a nice round number, this show, 970. We dragged out the calendar, and we found that if all goes well, on June 4th of next year, it will not only be our 15th anniversary show, it'll be our 1,000th broadcast.
Isn't that funny how that works out?
Yeah, you couldn't have planned that. So we are looking for ideas about what we should do on that very special show.
Perhaps a variety show.
Well, I don't know, singing and dancing, ponies and all.
But, hey, they did that. They did that in the old days of radio theater. We could somehow describe tumblers and all these things.
Well, you and I are going to talk about that. But in any case, I think that we're looking for some ideas. We'll try to do a 2-hour special, professional sports allowing. Sometimes we're followed by the Bruins or the Celtics or somebody. So anyway, we'll stay tuned on that, and we'd like to hear some ideas. Send them to us on Facebook or Paul at behindtheparanormal.com. So, what do we have for next week, Ben?
Well, we have in the oven. Hopefully, our souffle does not fall apart. November 13th, lucky 13. We'll bring you an open line show to tackle your questions on any and all paranormal subjects. And boy, is that it's always a wide variety of things.
Oh, yeah.
we jump into. So that should be a lot of fun. It's been a while since we've had one of those.
And the great Tim Swartz is going to be co-hosting with us. You didn't know this yet, Ben.
Oh well, now we do.
Yeah. And Tim is really a really wonderful person, and worked with the great Tim Beckley for many years on their show.
The Tims, yes.
The Tims, yeah, that was tough on their show. Which Tim is which? So anyway, we leave you today with a jocular thought from contemporary American cartoonist Scott Adams. He's the one who does Dilbert, okay? The creator of the universe works in mysterious ways, but he uses a base 10 counting system and likes round numbers. I think that's kind of cute.
Don't we all
anyway.
like round numbers?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm Paul Eno.
And I'm Ben Eno, and thanks for joining us on our great cosmic journey, and we shall see you next time on Behind the Paranormal.
Return to this radio frequency 167 hours from now for another edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.